Good afternoon, faculty, friends, family, and fellow graduates. Wow, what a journey it has been. It's amazing how far I've come. 4 years ago, I would have never been able to imagine myself standing up here before you to talk about leadership. I was unable to see myself as a leader, or even as a person with leadership abilities. I was struggling deeply. I felt lost in life, simply existing rather than living life. I was working a physically demanding job in construction, stuck in a toxic relationship, emotionally and physically exhausted, with little time or energy for the things that brought me joy in life. I was using substances in an attempt to cope with my hopelessly depressed mind state. I had no real sense of purpose, questioning my direction in life, self-worth, and my future. On the outside, everything appeared to be okay. I was functioning, going to work, paying bills, taking my dog to the dog park. But on the inside, I felt empty and hopeless. I struggled to see a way out of the life I had created. I was stuck. On November 28th, 2021, I reached an emotional low that I had never experienced. It was my breaking point. My efforts to blot out the misery of my existence with substances were becoming more and more futile. There was no escape. Something had to give. Fueled by a sense of desperation, I took this first step towards change and inner treatment. It was during this period I had the first glimmer of hope that I could have a better life. I learned of a solution and made a commitment to myself to work the 12 steps with a sponsor. I chose to take responsibility for my life. It was the first step towards true leadership. I needed to fix myself spiritually, mentally, and emotionally before I could lead others. I had to learn to love myself and to teach myself that despite my shortcomings, I deserved a better life. Working the 12 steps forced me to confront uncomfortable truths. It required humility, accountability, and radical honesty. It required me to take inventory of myself, my patterns, my fears, my character defects. It required me to make amends and carry the message of recovery to other addicts and alcoholics. In many ways, it was my first real training in leading others. Taking suggestions from those who had long-term sobriety, I began to change everything. I changed my friend group. I changed my living situation. I changed my relationships. I changed my occupation. I changed my thinking. And most importantly, I changed how I viewed myself. For the first time, I began to believe I was capable of creating the life I wanted for myself, rather than feeling trapped in the life I had. The shift from victim to ownership was foundational to my new leadership mindset. Leadership began with personal responsibility. I embraced my struggles with gratitude. Without my struggles, I would not have learned the discipline to manage time, the humility to serve others, and would not understand what true integrity was. My journey has not just been about earning a degree. It has been about self-exploration and growth, personally, professionally, and morally. It's been about learning how to manage time, how to lead, how to influence responsibly, and how to communicate ethically. Today, I would like to reflect on 5 lessons that shaped me as a leader. These lessons are utilizing time management, discovering my leadership traits, responsibly using my power to influence, finding and embracing my leadership style, and my use of ethical communication in leadership. When it came to time management, I was surprised to learn I had some preconceived notions regarding productivity that were entirely inaccurate. I was under the impression that multitasking was equivalent to productivity, that constant activity meant progress. Studying David Crenshaw's time management fundamentals enlightened me on the concept that productivity is not about doing more, but doing what matters with intent. Crenshaw describes 3 principles of productivity: space, time, and mind. I realized structure in each of these areas would be crucial to my success as a leader. My attention was scattered, and so were my responsibilities. I had multiple calendars, far too many gathering points, which Crenshaw defines as places that tasks gather. I relied on multitasking, which in actuality was just fragmented attention. In order to manage my time and increase productivity, I consolidated calendars, I reduced my gathering points, I scheduled my time each day, and most importantly, I put an end to multitasking and started finishing. When my time was structured strategically, I felt less overwhelmed and more focused. Rather than becoming reactive in my personal and professional life, I began to operate in clarity. These small, consistent changes compounded and culminated in elevating me as a leader among my peers. With the increased productivity and intentional use of my time, I was able to pass these skills on to my coworkers, creating a more streamlined and efficient workspace. A major portion of my journey has involved discovering who I actually am at my core. One of the most important lessons I learned in this program is that leadership begins from within. As Fiona Buckland writes, self-awareness is your primary leadership skill. You lead from yourself with yourself. During my time at CSU Global, I had the opportunity to take Jung's personality test, which helped guide me to better understand my core personality traits that shape my leadership style. The result of the test identified me as an ISTJ personality type. This stands for introversion, sensing, thinking, and judging. The assessment resonated with me because ISTJs are known for practicality, reliability, and integrity. I see those qualities in myself. These are all qualities that I have grown to cherish in my recovery journey. I am proud that I bring a steady and dependable presence to most situations. I take commitments seriously. If I say I'm going to do something, I will do it and do it well. I tend to lead through consistency, preparation, and by example. This personality assessment provided positive reinforcement that I had made the right decision and embarked on a career path that aligns with my personality traits. This self-reflection has given me confidence that my life is finally on the right trajectory. ISTJ personalities excel in careers requiring precision, organization, and systems thinking. My decision to pursue a career in supply chain management seemed to align with this assessment. I enjoy structure, problem solving, and building systems that function efficiently. This brings us to the power of influence. Influence has more power than authority. I have learned that effective leadership does not rely on title, authority, or control, but rather on trust. In my professional life as an assistant operations manager, I learned that people are more willing to follow someone who they are genuinely connected with. The principle of connection is crucial to the human experience. It was integral to my sobriety, and it is a major factor in my effectiveness as a leader. Naturally, individuals are more likely to be influenced by those they feel they are aligned with and relate to. In both my professional and personal interactions, I intentionally build connection by listening and showing genuine interest in others' thoughts and ideas. When people feel heard, they feel valued. When they feel valued, they feel invested and more aligned with your cause. Consistency is another principle of influence that deeply influenced me. I realized that influence begins with modeling behavior. If I want accountability, I must model accountability. If I expect urgency, I must act with urgency. This is backed by research that shows consistent behavior builds credibility and encourages alignment. This brings us to the principle of reciprocity, or debt, which has become especially meaningful to me. When I began my recovery journey, I was given a gift. My sponsor freely led me through the 12 steps, passing on the wisdom he had gained in recovery and giving me the gift of freedom from my addiction. His influence made me feel gratefully indebted. All he asked in return was for me to take someone through the steps, to give them the gift that I was so freely given. This translates into my professional life. When I support others, offer help, and create a culture of teamwork, people respond in kind. Not because they are obligated, but because respect is contagious. Influence built on service is stronger than influence built on pressure. Consensus also plays a powerful role in influence. When expectations are clearly defined and visibly upheld by everyone, standards become culturally universal rather than enforced, and people take ownership. I have learned that influence is not about convincing people to comply. It's about creating an environment where people want to contribute. I found that my leadership style does not necessarily fit into one single category. My leadership style is an extension of my core values. It is a blend of democratic, servant, strategic, and transformational leadership. I value collaboration and shared decision-making. Therefore, democratic leadership is the core of my leadership style. Research suggests that democratic leadership encourages accountability through collective problem solving rather than blame. This reinforces my core belief that the collective insight of a group is stronger than the perspective of any one individual. I have found this to be true in my 12-step group and find it to be true in life. Servant leadership also aligns with my values and personal experiences. Without the help of the people in my 12-step community, specifically my sponsor, I would not have succeeded. Servant leadership prioritizes supporting others so they can succeed. Supporting others, removing obstacles, and encouraging growth reflects both servant leadership theory and the principles that help rebuild my life. Strategic leadership allows me to maintain focus on long-term goals while navigating short-term objectives. This is something else that translated from my life in recovery. A big saying in that community is one day at a time. This mindset allows me to keep the end goal at the forefront of my mind while completing the daily objectives to get to that goal. This aligns closely with strategic leadership's emphasis on guiding organizations through dynamic conditions while protecting long-term success. Transformational leadership, however, shapes how I inspire and motivate others. Transformational leaders inspire growth and encourage teams to exceed expectations. I strive to model discipline, maintain positivity, and encourage development in my personal and professional life. Leadership is not about being rigid, it is about being intentional. My leadership style continues to evolve. 4 years ago, I struggled to lead myself. Today, I strive to lead others in a way that reflects growth, humility, and responsibility. Leadership, I have learned, is not a title, it is a lifelong process of alignment between values and action. To influence and to lead is a great responsibility that requires transparency, honesty, and alignment between words and actions. Influence without ethics becomes manipulation. Authority without integrity becomes control. Research shows that trust in leadership has been on a gradual decline. Today more than ever, the world needs ethical leaders. Caldwell and Anderson state that leaders who possess the moral courage, imagination, and integrity to fulfill their responsibility to others develop moral leadership when they have discovered what truly matters in their lives and in the lives of others. Over the last 4 years, I have discovered what truly matters in my life and feel that it has greatly impacted me as a leader. The most important quality of an effective ethical leader to possess is to operate with integrity. Robert Franklin wrote that integrity is the quality of wholeness and seamless integration of values, intentions, and behavior, and the starting place of all moral existence. Without integrity, action is untrustworthy, and meaningless, and authentic leadership is impossible. My sobriety requires me to be rigorously honest with myself and others. It required me to acknowledge mistakes, own them, and make amends. That practice allowed me to remove my ego from communication and ensured my actions aligned with my words. 4 years ago, I was not standing on a stage like this. I was lost, I was depressed, I was stuck in a life that did not reflect who I wanted to become. On that day, in November 28, 2021, I made a decision that changed everything. I chose accountability over avoidance, growth over comfort, integrity over ego. That decision did not just change my circumstances, it changed my character. Throughout this program, I learned that leadership is not about position, it is about responsibility. It is about aligning values with actions. To my family, thank you for believing in me when I struggled to believe in myself. To my friends in recovery, you showed me what courage and honesty look like. To the faculty at CSU Global, you challenged me to think critically, communicate ethically, and lead intentionally. And to my fellow graduates, we are in a world that is complex, uncertain, and often skeptical of leadership. But we're not powerless. We can rebuild trust, we can raise standards, we can choose integrity daily. Leadership is not a destination we arrive at when we receive a diploma. It is a commitment we renew every morning. Today, I do not stand here as someone who has it all figured out. I stand here as someone who chose to grow. And as I look forward, I know exactly who I want to be. A leader guided by integrity, anchored in accountability, committed to service, and courageous enough to keep becoming better. Thank you.